Hi, this is Dan Uppena. I work for Pioneer. We've got a new services brand that we've launched here recently. It's called Encirca, and the flagship product within the Encirca family is about our nitrogen management service. And really what this service allows a farmer to do is get a real-time estimate of how much nitrogen exists in their field. So virtually every farmer we talk to, if we ask them the simple question, are you curious about how much nitrogen's in your cornfield right now? The answer is a resounding yes. So this technology gives us the ability to do that. It also gives us the ability to forecast how much nitrogen is going to be available throughout the growing season, which is really important when you're trying to grow a corn crop and make sure that you've applied the right amount of nitrogen to maximize yields, but also have not over-applied nitrogen and, basically spent dollars on input costs that you didn't need to. So if you don't mind, I've got a typical plan set up here, just a brief explanation and demonstration of how this works. So if you look at the screen here, the first thing that we would do with the growers, enter in some basic information about their planting date and then what their nitrogen plan has been for the year. Now, if we have this information on a grower's as applied, we can capture it automatically. For this demonstration, I had to manually put it in. When we hit this button that says update the chart, this thing is going to do about 13 seconds worth of work. And this is really where the magic happens. We've spent literally the last year working with some really intelligent folks along with our own agronomy experience. What's happening behind the scenes is we're using real-time weather information for every day that we've collected for this field to tell you what's happened so far. And then more importantly, we'll use 50 years of weather information for this geo-lat and long for this particular field to forecast what we think is going to happen in the future. So what we give is we give farmers not only a real-time estimate of what they did, but also a forecast into how much nitrogen they're going to have later in the growing season. And in this example, what we're looking for is we want to have at least 150 pounds of nitrogen available at V6 to maximize yields. We want to make sure we have 70 to 90 pounds of nitrogen available at tasseling, because the corn still needs 40% of its nitrogen to maximize the yield of the crop. So we allow farmers to put in their nitrogen application plans and evaluate how they did based on how the growing season was and based on their field information. In this example, we would show that we look pretty good at V6, but by the time we got around to VT, we actually ran short of the nitrogen that the crop needed. So in this way, we have a service around helping farmers make improvements to their nitrogen management plans. So what's really important about this is we developed a crop model, and that's really the engine behind all of this. And there's 4 key inputs into that crop model, the first being weather, the second being information about the crop, the third being soils information, and then the last one is incorporating the grower's unique management practices into how the crop model works. And what our system does is it approaches each of those 4 key inputs in a novel and unique way. For example, we realized early on that interpolated or free weather data is not going to be granular enough for our needs. So we've deployed a weather station network working together with DTN. We've got over 1,200 stations we've placed in the last 3.5 months in rural areas to make sure the weather piece of this, which is what drives the model, is as accurate as it can be. Specific to soils, we've entered a collaboration with the University of Missouri and the USDA to bring what we call environmental response units into the information we have about the soils of a particular field. You can see an example of how those environmental response units bring a lot more granularity into the traditional soil survey map and really improves how accurate our real-time estimates are because we understand more about the soil types. And that's all proprietary and a really unique approach to it. And then finally, what we think makes us different is we work closely with growers. So we'll never just sell the software. We're always going to have a human there with you to understand if a grower needs to do a certain timing of application with nitrogen, how do we tailor the plan around their labor availability and how they choose to manage their farm. So it's a blend between the science and the art, which is really understanding those nuances for every individual farmer.